And we are back, and after what has certainly been the most entertaining game week of the Premier League so far, certainly in regards to the games that were televised. Of course, we're talking about the Arsenal-Southampton game and the Tottenham against Newcastle game. Two unbelievable matches to watch for differing reasons, of course. We now enter what can only be described as the most pivotal game week of the Premier League season. And in a few weeks' time, when we look back, I think an awful lot of clubs will eye this game week as the week where it all went right or it all went wrong. We've got some humongous games up and down the table, including Tottenham, Manchester United, Southampton against Bournemouth, Leicester against Leeds, and of course Manchester City against Arsenal. And when games are this pivotal, they're incredibly hard to predict, but that is why you come to this video, that is why you come to this series, to see how I am going to predict these matches. So if you are new around here, please do subscribe to the channel. We do predictions every single week, and drop a like on this video if you do watch these videos regularly and you do enjoy the series. Let's just get straight into it, because there is a lot to break down in this upcoming game week. And we start with Wolves against Crystal Palace, two sides that have made a move away from the relegation struggle over the last couple of weeks, but a result not going particularly right in this game could see them plunged back into the fight once again. I think this is a tough one to call. As I say, both teams have been on a little bit of a mini resurgence over the last few weeks. Both sides are playing well, and at this point in time, I can't really split them. I think if it was at Crystal Palace, I'd probably go for a Crystal Palace win, but because it's at Wolves, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Really, really tough one to call, this one. It just depends which forwards turn up on the day, I think, because both teams are defending so well. On to Aston Villa up against Fulham, and this one I think is a little less difficult to predict. Obviously, Aston Villa had a blip in their form at the weekend against a very good Brentford side. Fulham have now gone back-to-back wins, even without Alexander Mitrovic, so it does make this one a little bit tougher to call, and reports suggest that Emi Martinez might be injured in goal for Aston Villa, which will be a massive loss to them as well. I still don't see it being enough to prevent Aston Villa from getting the win, so I'm going to go for 2-1 for them. But like I say, with the loss of Martinez, could give Fulham a little bit more of a chance of winning the game. On to the first of the major relegation scraps then. It is Leeds United taking on Leicester City, with both sides in and around the relegation zone as things stand. Both sides desperately needing the 3 points in this one, and I'm going to predict neither of them to get it. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Both sides look relatively dangerous going forward, but both sides look incredibly shaky defensively. So I think this could be a really open game, chances at both ends. It just comes down to which side ends up taking more chances on the night. And like I say, I can't split them right now. I think this is a really, really tight game, and I think it will just come down to, like I say, who ends up taking the most chances. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. This could end up going either way, and we shall see. On to Wednesday night's games, and we kick off with Nottingham Forest taking on Brighton. Brighton, of course, off the back of their disappointment in the FA Cup semi-final yesterday, and of course, I'm obviously happy about that as a Manchester United fan. They will be taking on Nottingham Forest at the City Ground, and as much as this will be a difficult task for Brighton, I think Nottingham Forest just don't have enough to break down Brighton themselves. They were very good defensively yesterday, Brighton. Not the best on offence, but obviously Nottingham Forest are nowhere near as good defensively, touch wood, as Manchester United were. So I would expect Brighton to get the result in this one, and I'm going to go for 2-0 to Brighton and Hove Albion. Next up, it is Chelsea up against Brentford, and with Chelsea at the moment, you just don't know what you're going to get. It'd be very easy for me to just sit here and say Chelsea should win this 2 or 3-0, but you can't say that at the moment. Chelsea are in such disarray. They look completely lost. They're obviously not playing for anything anymore. They're very unrealistic chances of qualifying for any of the European competitions, so you'd think that'd take the pressure off them, but I just think at the moment every game feels like there's more pressure on them because of how poorly they're performing. Brentford, of course, threw away the lead against Aston Villa at the end of their game at the weekend, so makes it hard to judge how they're going to perform as well. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I just don't see Chelsea scoring enough chances against a good Brentford defence, especially given the way that Chelsea have attacked in recent games. And Brentford are always likely to get a goal, so I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Again, very, very tight game to call this. which is why I'm just going to put it down the middle. Next game on Wednesday night sees West Ham United taking on Liverpool. Once again, two resurgent sides over the last few games. West Ham scoring goals for fun all of a sudden off the back of their drumming at the hands of Newcastle a few weeks ago. They found their goal-scoring touch. Huge win in Europe. Huge win yesterday in the Premier League. And they take on a Liverpool side off the back of scoring 9 goals in their last 2 games. So you'd expect a lot of goals in this one. It was 3-2 to Liverpool against Nottingham Forest at the weekend. But I'm going to go for 3-2 to West Ham in this one, as I see the Hammers' resurgence continue as they build momentum towards their Europa Conference semi-final. Then we move on to the main event of the midweek fixtures. Manchester City taking on Arsenal. An all-or-nothing game for the Gunners. They simply have to win this game if they have any chance of winning the Premier League title, which is such a shame for them because just 3 game weeks ago, they were in a position where they could lose this game and still win the title. But 6 dropped points in their last 3 games means it's now must win for Arsenal, and they're coming up against the most informed side in the world, the best team in the world as it stands, playing just the best football. And given everything that's happened to this young Arsenal side over the last few days and weeks, I just don't see this being anything other than a Manchester City mauling. I'm going to go for 4-1. I think Arsenal will score. I think they have too much attacking power to not score against Manchester City, but the mentality of these Manchester City players at the moment, the mental fragility of the Arsenal players at the moment, I think unless Saliba is able to declare himself fit for this game, may give Arsenal a bit more chance if he is available. But if Saliba's not there, this is going to be a massacre, and I'm going to go for 4-1 to Arsenal. Finally, we move on to Thursday, and we kick off with Everton taking on Newcastle United. Newcastle off the back of their incredible 6-1 win over Tottenham at St James's yesterday. Everton off the back of another disappointing performance and disappointing defeat. It now comes down to, can Everton survive? Because they're in massive trouble again. It looked like Sean Dyche had turned them around, but now it looks like they're back in trouble again. And with the Newcastle side running rampant at the moment, granted they had their blip against Aston Villa, I don't think Everton have got enough to keep this Newcastle attack out. And it was 3-1 to the away side in Everton's last home game. I'm going for 3-1 to the away side in this Everton home game as well. On to the humongous relegation battle once again, and it is Southampton off the back of their disappointment of blowing the 3-1 lead against Arsenal at the weekend, taking on a Bournemouth side who were humiliated at home 4-0 by West Ham yesterday. A game that both teams again need to win, especially Southampton, if they have any chance of surviving. I think Southampton are going to do it though. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Southampton in this one. I think the chances they were creating against Arsenal, the ability they showed, the desire and the will to fight against a side that they had no right to do so against. I think they're going to beat Bournemouth. I think they're going to drag Bournemouth back into it and put a stamp on their possibility to survive. And obviously, if the other results go the way that I've predicted, with Leeds and Leicester drawing, Nottingham Forest losing, Everton losing, or Everton will be playing the same time as them, it just gives them that little bit more belief as well going into the Bournemouth game that if they win, they can still survive. And I'm backing Southampton to do it. Not to overall survive. We can have that discussion in a couple of more weeks' time. But for now, I'm backing Southampton to get the win over Bournemouth. And finally, it is Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United in the huge game for top 4 in Champions League football. If Manchester United win this game, surely Champions League football is theirs. Tottenham must win to drag Manchester United back into danger and keep their hopes alive, but their last 2 performances for Tottenham, it's not looking good for them. 6-1 away at Newcastle yesterday, 3-2 at home to Bournemouth in the game before that, and obviously Manchester United got over their disappointment against Sevilla by getting the win on penalties against Brighton yesterday. Showed a lot more positive signs going forward, albeit didn't actually score in the 120 minutes, but defensively looked much more secure. And I think we are capable of keeping Tottenham out. I'm not going to predict us to keep Tottenham out. I'm going to give Tottenham a goal just because of how well Harry Kane is playing at the moment. But I am going to give Manchester United the win. I'm going to go for 2-1. I have to believe that we're going to win this game, and I have to think that this will secure our Champions League status for next season and start sowing the seeds of us signing Harry Kane in the summer, which I am for at the moment. I'm definitely for signing Harry Kane at the moment. So hopefully we can get the win, have a word with him after the game and get that deal started, shall we say, after the game. But I'm predicting Manchester United to get the win and near enough secure top four and Champions League football for next season. Let me know in the comments, as always, your thoughts over my predictions and everything that you are predicting for this upcoming game week, as well as your thoughts on everything that happened over the weekend. It is going to be a huge week of Premier League action. I'm very excited to see what twists and turns we are going to have all up and down the table. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with my fantasy football team for the upcoming game week.